Philosopher, psychologist, emerging counselor, father, grandfather, writer, speaker, social activist, seeker of insight. Newly accepted to clinical mental health counseling, I still had doubts. Would the counseling lifestyle align with my values? Would I be required to affirm beliefs that I did not share? Do I have the temperament and talents to be a quality counselor? 1 year in, I now know that counseling suits me well, and I have the freedom to choose with integrity so as to acquire effective abilities. Having never before experienced being in counseling for myself, doing so changed my mind. There is meaning in that alliance when managed well. Seemingly simple techniques had profound effects. In that counseling, we discussed a phobia of mine, complete with nightmares and anxieties in ordinary life. I refer it back to a childhood experience that terrified me. I remember that terror now. I believe that it's the source of my lifelong fear. In The Body Keeps Score, van der Kolk describes how the human system encodes and stores patterns of alarm and defensive reaction that may be re-engaged by new experiences decades later. I find much meaning in this related to my own phobia. Van der Kolk's book is working towards treatment and relief for trauma, and I'm eager to learn his theory and method to see how it may apply to me. In another passage, van der Kolk describes clients who blank out. They're depersonalized with minimal sensation, thought, and feeling or language. He found that their brain states correlate with the blank state as low cortical activity. One client learned to blank out as a child when suffering abuse, and she has become adept at using this technique to cope with trauma. I think of two instances in cinema in which psychological depersonalization was depicted. In The Silence of the Lambs, the psychopath psychiatrist Hannibal Lecter is being threatened in an interrogation. The movie floats off into an abstract, fuzzy space in which the audience loses contact with the interrogation room and interrogators along with Lecter. When the scene snaps back to reality, it is evident from the reactions of the others that this depersonalized moment has lasted longer in time and timelessly in Lecter's mind. In The Shining, Danny Torrance is 5 years old and is confronted with horrific phenomena. When his insane father attacks Danny and his mother with an axe, Danny shields his psyche by depersonalizing while his imaginary friend, alter ego Tony, stands in for him. I also have this blank out ability, though for me, it's correlated with a total mental and perceptual focus on a task. Often when I'm writing or creating something, it becomes my total world and nothing else exists. This causes me to be late to meetings and even to ignore important practical tasks such as paying bills or cleaning up the house. I do not think that this attribute is caused by trauma in my life, but it is one of the coping mechanisms that I have to deal with harsh and potentially traumatic instances. My characteristic is a version of my father's. I realize that he and I both use this depersonalization to remove ourselves from negative influences in our environment. I'll say that while blanking out may be a dysfunctional condition, when combined with intellectual focus, it also becomes a tool for creativity and productivity. I don't wish to lose that. Reading our texts, I find it hard to come across some of the traumatic scenarios that people suffer. Our world is so sad in so many ways. When I cringe and tear up at a tragic description, I reassert to myself that I'm engaged in trying to help suffering people and perhaps prevent future trauma for others. I suppose that involves taking on some suffering for ourselves. That reminder gives me perspective and motivation to carry on. Prior to COVID, I worked out every morning. With the pandemic, workout centers closed. I'm less successful in managing my exercise at home. When some reopened, they required exercising with a mask on, which was just not functional for me. So I lost 2 years of physical exercise. Now that the masks are off, I've joined a gymnasium just yesterday and plan to re-engage daily in exercise. And today is April Fool's Day, my favorite holiday. I've devoted time to it, as I do every day, to my practice of laughter yoga. I lead the OSU Laughter Yoga Club. Intentional laughter is the most potent self-regulatory practice that I've ever engaged in. If I had nothing else, laughter yoga would sustain my self-care through it all. Studying trauma and its treatment is important to me. I sense that understanding the physiology and psychology of trauma is key to understanding many other issues encountered in counseling. I am truly blessed to be in this place at this time, and I'm doubly blessed, dear colleagues, to be doing so in collaboration with you. Assalamu alaikum.